Some people fall in love easily. They meet someone, they feel something, and they just go with it. No second guessing, no analysis. They send the text, they say the thing, they show up. And then there are others who read a message 4 times before replying, who lie awake at 2 a.m. replaying a conversation they had 3 days ago, who feel everything deeply, maybe too deeply, and spend more time living inside their own heads than they do living in the moment. If you've ever met someone like that, or if some part of you recognizes yourself in those words, then stay with me. Because today, we're going to talk about why people who think too much often struggle in the very relationships they care about most. You've probably met someone like this. They're not cold, they're not difficult. In fact, they might be some of the most thoughtful, perceptive people you've ever known. But in relationships, something shifts. Picture this. Someone sends them a perfectly normal text. Something like, "Hey, we need to talk later." Simple, harmless. Maybe it's about dinner plans. Maybe it's about nothing important at all. But for the overthinker, that message becomes a puzzle. Why did they say need to? Not want to. Need to. Is something wrong? Did I do something? When did I last see them? Was I acting distant? Should I ask now or wait? If I ask now, will I seem anxious? And by the time the conversation actually happens, the overthinker has already lived through 15 different versions of it in their mind. This is what daily life looks like for people who think too much. Everything carries weight, tone, timing, word choice, silence. Nothing goes unanalyzed. A delayed reply isn't just a delayed reply, it's a sign, a symbol, evidence of something. They'll rewrite a 2-sentence text 5 times to make sure it doesn't sound too eager, too cold, too much, or too little. They'll dissect a look someone gave them across a room and build an entire story around it. And here's what makes it exhausting. Not just for the people around them, but for the overthinker themselves. They know they're doing it. They know it's probably nothing, and yet they can't stop. So how does someone get here? This is where it gets interesting. Overthinkers are rarely born this way. Most of them were made this way, shaped by something that happened or something that kept happening. Maybe they loved someone who was unpredictable, someone whose mood shifted without warning, so they learned, early on, to read the room, to pick up on signals before the storm arrived. Overthinking for them was a survival skill. It kept them safe, or maybe they were the kind of child who felt things more intensely than the people around them. While others shrugged things off, they carried them, and so they started processing, endlessly processing, as a way to make sense of a world that felt bigger and louder and more complicated to them than it seemed to for everyone else. Some of them have been hurt, not just once, but in the specific way that changes how you trust people. A betrayal they didn't see coming, a relationship that ended without explanation, a love that felt real right up until the moment it didn't. And their mind, trying to protect them, made a quiet decision: we are never getting caught off guard again. So they became pattern recognizers, students of behavior. They study people not to be manipulative, but to be prepared, to never be blindsided again. The irony is this: the very intelligence that makes them good at reading people also makes it impossible for them to simply be with people. Now here's the part that often gets overlooked. People who think too much can be extraordinary partners. Because they notice things, they remember the small detail you mentioned once, months ago, and they bring it up at exactly the right moment. They notice when your energy is off before you said a single word. They ask questions that actually go somewhere. They don't do surface level. They can't. When they love someone, they love with intention. They think about how their actions affect the other person. They try to understand. They sit with difficult emotions instead of running from them. And they're often remarkably good at creating space for other people to do the same. They value loyalty the way some people value oxygen, because they know what it costs to trust someone. They know what it feels like when that trust is broken. So when they commit completely. And they're honest, sometimes uncomfortably so, because they've spent so much time in their own heads that pretending to them feels like more work than it's worth. You've probably met someone like this. And if you have, you know that there's a kind of depth to them, a quality that feels rare, like they're actually there when they're with you, fully present, fully attentive, even when everything inside them is spinning. But here's the hidden problem, and this is the part that quietly ruins things for them. All of that thinking, all of that analyzing, all of that careful, constant observation, it creates distance. A very specific kind of distance between them and the people they care about most. Because a relationship isn't a puzzle to be solved, it's something that has to be felt. And when you're spending half your time inside your own head, you're only halfway inside the relationship. Overthinkers often create problems that don't exist. They assume, they fill in silences with stories. They interpret a partner's quiet mood as a sign of something wrong, something they caused, when really the other person is just tired or distracted or simply having a difficult day that has nothing to do with them at all. And when they voice these interpretations, "Are you upset with me? Did I do something wrong? You seem distant lately?" Their partner, who wasn't thinking about any of this, suddenly feels like they're being watched, like they have to account for every mood, every pause, every exhale. And that pressure, over time, it wears people down. Here's what usually happens. The overthinker genuinely wants closeness, craves it even. But the way they pursue it, through constant analysis, constant reassurance seeking, constant vigilance, actually pushes people away. And when that happens, it confirms the very fear they were trying to prevent. I knew something was wrong. I knew it wouldn't last. It becomes a cycle. A quiet, painful cycle that they often don't realize they're in. They also have a tendency to wait, to hesitate at the exact moment when action would matter most. They're so busy calculating the right move that the moment passes. They don't say the thing. They don't make the gesture. And later, alone with their thoughts, they replay what might have happened if they had. Sometimes overthinking isn't just about fear of getting hurt, it's about fear of being known. Because if you stay in your head long enough, you never have to fully show up. And if you never fully show up, you can't fully be rejected. It's a form of armor, clever, invisible, and quietly isolating. I've observed many people like this. And what strikes me most isn't the complexity of their minds, it's the sincerity of their hearts. They're not trying to be difficult. They're not trying to exhaust the people around them. They're trying to be careful. Careful with their own emotions, careful with other people's. They've seen what happens when feelings are handled carelessly, and they've made a silent vow that they won't be the ones to do it. The struggle is that love doesn't always reward careful thinking. Relationships don't unfold according to logic. They ask you to step forward before you're ready, to speak before you've found the perfect words, to stay present in a moment instead of retreating into analysis. And for the overthinker, that is genuinely hard, not because they don't care, but because they care so much that caution has become a reflex. What they're really searching for, underneath all of it, is simple safety. The kind of connection where they don't have to brace for impact, where the other person's consistency is evidence enough. Where silence is just silence, not a threat, not a sign, just two people comfortable enough to exist quietly together. If you love someone who thinks too much, know this: their questions aren't accusations. Their worry isn't weakness. They're not suspicious of you. They're suspicious of themselves, of their own ability to read a situation correctly, to trust what they feel without immediately questioning it. And if you are someone who thinks too much, if you recognize yourself in any of this, then maybe the most useful thing I can leave you with is this. The next thought you're about to have about that person, that message, that silence, you don't have to have it. Not every gap needs to be filled. Not every silence needs a story. Some things are allowed to simply be what they appear to be. The mind that's kept you safe all this time is a powerful thing. But even the most careful thinker deserves to feel something, without immediately trying to understand it.